You're listening to an episode on the Nerdcore podcast feed. If you're feeling generous, please consider pledging to a tier on our Patreon at patreon.com/thenerdcore. We have tiers as low as $1 per month. Thanks so much, and enjoy the episode.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Impaired Files, episode 2. And on today's show, we have host of the Ladies of Nerdcore podcast and recent acquisition to the team, Daniela Nuñez. Hello, Daniela. Say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody. I'm saying hello to everybody because I was told to.
Yeah. I want to thank you all so much for an amazing first episode. I hope you guys enjoyed me talking to Nikki. She's an awesome person. I'm glad that we were able to entertain you all with that first episode. But if this is your first time listening to the show, as it might be because Daniela is going to share this with her friends who probably haven't listened to this show yet. This is
damn.
Yeah, this is a long-form interview show. I sit down with several people in my life and I talk about what they do and I explore parts of their life. So basically, this is therapy. Nah, I'm playing around. It's not therapy. It should never feel like therapy. But I'm very excited. This is somebody who, when I had her on the first episode ever, when I first met her, I said, okay, I have to have you on this show. Because this is something that I want to kind of dive more into who you are and how that reflects to your art, which is something that I'm very I wouldn't say knowledgeable, but I'm kind of I know about because we're both filmmakers. But enough of me talking. I want you to introduce yourself, Daniela, to the people who may not know you. Tell them who you are.
Hi, everybody. I'm Daniela Nuñez. I'm a human being. I live on this planet. Sorry. I guess if I was to give myself a title, I will say I'm a full-time employee as an assistant manager at a movie theater, and I'm also a full-time student at Cal State University Northridge. As you heard, I am a film student, so my ultimate goal is to be a producer. And more importantly, I want to be a film producer that creates movies based on the stories of people of color. And that's just going to become my life work. And so I've been paving the way for quite some time, and I'm going to continue to pave the way to hopefully be able to fulfill my dream. So that's just the basis of me. There's many forms and parts to me, so let's just dive into the interview then.
Yeah, you forgot to mention one big thing too. You're the host of the show. We have your own show on here with Ashley and Alex Almeida, and recent new member of the team. How I haven't had the time to ask you, but how do you feel being on the team and having your show?
It's fairly new to me, which is why I still can't get myself to say the title where I'm like, yeah, I host the Nerdy View, the Ladies of Nerdcore. It's pretty awesome. But like I said, it's fairly new. I'm still new to the podcast game, so it's not like I'm able to advocate for myself just yet. But yes, that is one thing I did forgot to mention. But like I said, it's still new to me, and it's still shocking to think that part of my goals did come true, because it was one of my goals to not only be on a podcast but actually host a podcast. And it's weird, but it's so, I guess the feeling is so surreal that it's actually happening. So sometimes I have to re-pinch myself and be like, oh my god, I am doing this. So yeah, it's pretty awesome so far, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity. Truly I am. Especially because I not only get to talk, because I mean I can go on forever, but it's also I get to talk about things that I like. And sometimes I don't have that opportunity, but you guys get to hear me, so you're my victims. I'm sorry.
Oh, it happens. I guess I'm one of the original victims too, because I have to listen to the episode before it really goes up. But look, I'm a big fan of yours. I've only known you for a little bit, but I'm a big fan of what you do right now on the Ladies of Nerdcore. I really like that show. I mean, I needed the first moment I met you. I said I have to get this girl on this on the feed. I have to find a way that I can get her in. I said maybe make her co-host with Ashley and I for the Mexi Gamers. But then I said, oh, come on, I can't just restrict her to just Patreon. I gotta put her on, the worldwide. Like I gotta get her on air on a lot of things. So I wanted to get you on this team, and once I got a fit for you, I think I found the best possible way to have you involved in the team. And yes, it does feel weird at first because you don't know anybody else on the team except for Ashley and Alex, who you're getting to know with the show. But I have that you will learn to have fun and appreciate the medium, but you can call yourself a podcaster because you are a podcaster.
Yeah, and it's so funny that you say that because obviously people don't really believe in New Year's resolution, but I'm a big fan of New Year's. And one of my goals for this year was to actually be able to use my voice a little bit more, because it wasn't until recently that I realized that I'm very articulate and that I do have a really valid opinion. Obviously with the social media platform going on and everybody has that opportunity to speak up, it's scary because not only can you be able to say something, but you can be demeaned because of saying something. You said something. Sometimes people won't always like your opinion. And I think that's a scary and exciting thought because, sometimes you may have a bunch of people following you, and then sometimes you have a bunch of people following you for the wrong reasons. And I was always afraid. I'm not going to deny that. But for example, for me to be a producer, to be a filmmaker, to be an advocate, to provide this platform for people who are typically silenced, like how am I supposed to, provide that platform if I don't use it myself? 100%. And so, like I said, I made it my recent goal to basically use all forms of mediums and just speak out. So I really delve into my art because of it. And yes, I completed one of my goals for this year, which was to become a podcaster. And like I said, it's so surreal to me that it's hard to believe. And sometimes I have to remind myself that, yes, I am a podcaster. And yes, I do have a voice. And yes, I'm going to continue doing what I do despite what people say or think of me. So
yeah. And
deep shit.
Deep shit. Yeah, I know. So a little icebreaker we do before we actually get involved into the big part of the interview. I like to ask people what their favorite things are from whatever their respective mediums are that they do. If I were to be talking to a podcaster, I tell them, what's your favorite podcast? Or if I'm talking to a video game streamer, I ask them what their favorite video game are. As with you, I'm going to ask you, who is your favorite director and your favorite film of all time?
Oh, that's really hard.
Yeah, I have mine. I don't know about you.
You know what? Okay, the only reason why I find it difficult is not for the fact that I want to specifically aim towards film producing. The only reason why I'm aiming towards film is because I hate the way that films, are going along now. And like, for example, the thought of the Oscars right now is fucking me up because I'm like, there's not even anything good. But, that's just... that's a topic for another day, but it's just more like I don't agree with some of the options, and more importantly, I don't agree with many of the stories that are being told, and some of the stories are either repeats or something that's been revamped and so on and so forth. And I'm more looking for complete originality, and obviously you're not going to always get that in mainstream media, but the thing that I'm looking for is just overall good storytelling. And I feel like I don't see that, especially in film. And I'm not saying film is dying. It's slowly coughing.
It's in a stagnant point right now. It's very stagnant. And I am a full lover of cinema. The reason I'm not in this industry because I'm not in this industry because there's something that I need to do. I am a full lover of this language, of this art form. Cinema is beautiful in its purest form, and I love it with all my heart. And I want to do it, but I can understand where you're coming from. Film is at a very weird place right now, where reboots and sequels and remakes are what are hitting it right now, and I wish that wasn't the case, because originality is what needs to speak in a format that was known for originality. And especially when you have such a pure art form like film, there is no other art form out there that is as intimate and pure, at least in my eyes, as film is.
I agree with you. I think for me, it's more of a motherly instinct where I'm upset that right now film is like hitting its teenage years, where it's kind of like, on doing its own thing, and it's not really improving as a person, at least to put it in terms metaphorically. But I think for me, I think what bugs me right now is that a lot of people are claiming that their favorite movies are old movies. And, they always praise the classics, the 1980s originality, sci-fi thrillers. And, everyone has their favorite movie within those times. And then you wonder, why is no one saying, my God, Black Panther's my favorite movie, or...
Yeah, and if they do say that, people come out to shame them for it. Like, it shouldn't be a problem for somebody to say that Black Panther's their favorite movie of all time. Like, guys, please, like, stop bashing people for just enjoying film. Like,
exactly. And I think what bugs me too is that the American Film Institute still claims some of these classics like they're the number one. Like, I hate that in film class we're always learning that Citizen Kane is the greatest movie in all time. And I'm sorry, in my to God honest opinion, I fucking hate that movie. And it's just overly praised for no fucking reason. And I'm thinking, really? You guys think this is like the greatest movie of all time? Seriously, what are you on? Like crack? Get out of your ass or something. But that's just my opinion, okay? Yeah. I'm probably going to be kicked out of film school because I said that. But the point is the fact that I don't agree with that. And more importantly, I hate the fact that with I want to say social media. I'm sorry. I'm going to take that back. With film, people learn a lot of their moral lessons. If your parents aren't teaching you, then TV and movies are teaching you. And I feel that a lot of TV and movies, not so much TV now. TV is a little bit more experimental now, which is amazing. But film in general, it's so stagnant and it hasn't improved. And we're not talking about issues that are happening right now. And we're really behind on that. And I feel that with film, once we create stories that have, a current meaning or, have an effect on the times right now, that's when we can actually advocate for change. And so this is why it's really hard for me to claim my favorite movie or favorite TV show. If I was to say like favorite show right now, I would say the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. That's because I just totally, binge watched season 1 right now, and that's just my shit. I'll probably finish season 2 right now too. But as for favorite movie, just to go back to your overall question, I would say I have to go back to my guilty pleasure movie, which is Selena.
Oh, I love that movie so much. There's no reason to not love that. Anybody who doesn't love that movie is on my shit list.
When you're going to film school and they're asking for your favorite cinematographer, and I'm just like, I just like Selena. Like, that's just my shit. Yeah. I still cried at the end, okay? Even though I know what happens.
Yeah. Look, my favorite movie of all time isn't Citizen Kane. It's not Casablanca. It's amazing, like, old film. It's Beautiful by Alejandro González Iñárritu. That's my favorite film of all time. It's not an old 1950 or French New Wave film. It's a 2010 film, foreign film, and it's made by a very modern director. So, like, the stigma that comes around loving modern films is really bad because, art is subjective. If a kid says Black Panther's their favorite movie of all time, so what? That's their favorite movie of all time. Leave them alone. And if somebody says that Nosferatu is their favorite movie of all time, so what? They're probably as old as Brad, though. But it's okay. Whatever.
Sorry, you just totally threw me off. Yeah, no, I think for me it's just more. That's what many people forget is that at the end of the day, this is an entertainment business, and we're here to entertain. But I like to analyze the world through the eyes or through the lens of a camera, and I think it goes beyond just entertaining. I think it's providing a message.
It's about the human condition. Film is not just entertainment. That's the one thing that there's this running joke always that I don't like fun things. I don't like to enjoy fun movies, but like I don't watch movies that have fun. I watch movies for the whole psychoanalysis and the human condition, and basically what art is at its deepest form is a commentary on what makes us us.
Yeah, and I think you put it in the best words. And just to bounce off of that, I would just say we haven't had enough of that recently.
No, not one bit.
Like I said, and I feel I have that motherly instinct where I want to do something about it. Like I have to do something about it. And I want to. Like that's just my goal because I love this medium so much that I want to be able to help it grow.
Yeah. And it's it's crazy, it's film film is not gonna die. It can't die because it's such a big industry that it's constantly growing every year. I mean, now people are experimenting with VR films, and Alejandro made one of those with Carne y Arena, basically putting you in the shoes of an immigrant crossing the border. So it's crazy, but it is sadly in a very stagnant phase right now that hopefully we are in the midst of I just want to live through a boom. I want to not a move. I want to live through a movement in film. People live through the French New Wave. People live through the Italian neo-realist films. People live through German expressionism. I want to live through a freaking movement because I want to see film finally, take originality by the cojones and finally put it out there.
You know what? Now that you say that, it's more like I don't want to just watch it happen. I want to be a part of it.
Yeah, I want to. Yeah,
exactly. Especially because VR is up and coming, and it still needs work.
Oh, 100%.
I'll give you that. I think we have the technology to make it happen and make it believable. The only thing that I feel like VR is lagging right now is good storytelling, or great storytelling. Not good storytelling, great storytelling. Mainly because with VR. You're part of the experience.
Yeah.
And so in order for you to be part of the experience, you gotta, I don't know, you gotta you gotta feel it, you gotta understand it. And, you gotta understand the complexities of you yourself as a character. Yeah. And that's something that I truly want to be a part of because I think that will be fucking amazing to see that, yes, I helped invent that, or I helped tell a story through that.
Yeah, my favorite professor of all time. She's not even a film professor. She is a French literature professor. She told me something very important before I came over here and I started to go deeper into my film career. She said, Raul, you have to understand your narrative first before you actually create them. You have to understand who you are as a human before you can actually put your stories out there. One has to create their narrative first, and it's 100% before you start making a first film, whether that be a comedy film or not. You as a human have to understand what your narrative is before you put it out there.
No, absolutely. And I heard the same advice, but in different wording. It's just more like the best stories to tell are the one, like your own. And, no one knows yourself better than you.
Yeah.
So, tell what you know and go from there. Yeah. Sometimes my imagination is wilder than it should be. But, at the end of the day, my best stories are the ones that I have personally dealt with. Yeah. So, I mean, and, it's crazy.
I have on here the next thing that I wanted to ask you. You literally already kind of touched on it, but where your love of film came from. But you're talking about why you're doing it. But as a kid, did you watch a lot of movies? Were you exposed to film when you were a child, or or did you live one of those childhoods where you didn't watch TV or movies?
No.
There's actually people out there who live that type of childhood. So I have to ask.
Well, my first love was always it was between music and film, and they kind of go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
So originally growing up, my brothers and my dad were very much involved in DJing, and so they always did house parties on the weekends, and during the weekdays, they would hear music being played in my garage. So music was always like my first love.
Yeah.
But the thing is I grew up in a very traditional, old school Mexican household, and I grew up with four brothers and myself, and I'm the only girl. And so I was very secluded growing up. So, my dad always told me, like, girls with girls, boys with boys. So, I hate to admit it, but part of those times I was kind of lonely. So I really delved into watching TV and movies. And obviously that's when cable was kind of becoming big. And so as soon as my parents got cable, I was like, ooh, look at the channels, the unlimited channels. There's so much to watch, so much to see, so much to know. And, as a kid, you see all those movies and you're like, damn, I want to be a part of that. Like, your imagination, becomes wilder and more vivid. And so I always imagined myself in the movies and being an actress. And so my love for music became a love for being an actor or being a performer. And I know that's why I love Selena so much, was the fact that this was a movie about good music, and a person who related to my experience as a Mexican American. And so, that was something that I hold close to my heart. And I had that movie on repeat. And, luckily my parents liked that movie, so they let me repeat it. But for the most part, it was just more of, okay, I have this strong knowledge of movies because I watched too many damn movies. And then when obviously during my later years, especially in high school, and they kept asking, what do you want to do? I'm like, damn, well, I really like movies. I think I want to do something with movies. Yeah. It wasn't until I probably hit my first years of college where I was asked the question, what are you an advocate for? And it hit me. I was like, damn, what do I want to advocate for? What do I want to live for?
Yeah.
And, obviously I came to terms with knowing that I love film, but I also hate it because of how I feel and because I have this small hate for, or I wouldn't call it hate. It's more like a strong passion for it that I have to be part of this.
Yeah.
So,
I wanted to kind of like follow up to something. Would you say that Selena was the first film that impacted you, or was there something before? Because I know, in my eyes, the first film to really impact me was Bambi and The Lion King. Those two films. And it's not in the sense of like, oh, it's a really good film, because it's not that good. Like, I look at it back now, at least Lion King. I actually think that Bambi is better than Lion King. But I look at them back now and I'm like, oh, they're not that good. But as a child, I understood where that sense of wonder was, because it was the first time I actually watched something like that. I watched how emotion could be conveyed through a screen, and I was able to feel sadness because Bambi's mom was shot. As a child who never really, as a child at that time who didn't ever see that stuff, as a child being able to feel for an inanimate creature on my screen being shot and feeling sad because the son just lost his own mother. It's a big thing, and people should really go back and look at that and look at your childhood in movies like that. Like, for a child to feel that type of emotion because of something like that, a 4-year-old child, like, that's amazing. Like, that's, especially if you look at the psychology of how children are when they're small, where they're very, egotistical and don't really care about any other people's feelings. It's just me. Because as a child grows up, it becomes more empathetic towards other people. But how a child can watch something on screen and feel some sort of emotion, feel sorry for Bambi because he just lost his mom, that's what interests me so much. That is the most interesting stuff in my eyes.
Wow, that's pretty deep. I think for me, I was stuck between Selena and Mulan. I think I'm pretty sure Mulan was the first movie I ever saw in theaters, especially when it first came out. And I think the coolest part for me was seeing a princess with a sword.
Oh, hell yeah.
Um, so for me, seeing Mulan was just like, damn, this is awesome. I want to be her. And I realized growing up, I was like, I relate to this character so much. And, going from there, I'm just like, man, why is this movie amazing? Mind you, it has its flaws now. Now that I have a filmmaker's eyes, I'm
Mm-hmm.
more like, I overanalyze movies. That's kind of my kryptonite right now.
Mm-hmm.
It sucks because sometimes you can't watch a movie for entertainment, but because of it, it's just more like, okay, I like this movie, but what can we do to make things better?
Sometimes we wish we were part of the general movie-going audience that just goes to watch to turn their brains off and out and watch things.
Yes and no. I think if I was part of the general movie audience, I would waste so much money going to the movie theater.
I still do, and I'm not part of the general movie-going audience.
I am so blessed from my job, and I get to watch movies before they come out. So, sorry, not sorry, y'all. Okay, I worked hard. I deserve to watch it a day before the rest of the general audience.
Yeah. But that's very interesting that Mulan. I feel like that's the thing with most people. Like, animated films are the first ones that really strike a chord with children. I did want to, like I said before, I've said this to you off air, and I said this to you messages, and I wanted to reiterate. If I ever do touch on a subject that you do not want to talk about, tell me, and I will skip over it and not bring it up. I do not want to make you uncomfortable on the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
I want to bring up growing up. Growing up as a daughter in a traditional Mexican household, which I understand. I don't understand the female perspective of it. But I do know how that stuff goes. How that stuff goes. I do not have a sister though. But cousins and stuff, and how I spend a lot of time observing the behavior of my of the family. But how was that growing up?
I'm not gonna say it was a bad childhood. It wasn't.
No, of course
It was a blessing in disguise. I will give you that. I think for me, I didn't understand the concepts of living in a traditional Mexican household until I discovered that there's different ways to live in a household. And
that's what comes with when you form your identity. When you realize these things is when you finally get to, like, I want to say your teenage years is when you really start to form your identity, and then your adult years is really when it's completely created.
No, absolutely. Heck yeah. And I am proud to say that I am a Mexican American woman. I'm a Latina, and fuck, I'm Chicana, whether I look like it or not. But it wasn't a tough childhood. It really wasn't. They had some very, up and down moments, like everybody's childhood. Yes, my parents are pro spanking. I obviously was one of the good child, but let's be real, I was the good child in the family. But it wasn't bad. It really wasn't. It was more difficult to understand the concepts of living in a household where women are seen differently than men, to put it lightly. And then for those who don't understand about what I'm talking about, traditionally in a Latino household, in a very super Catholic, traditional, cultural household, women tend to be housemakers, and they are raised to become housemakers. So they're technically raised to be someone's wife. I obviously did not know that growing up, but I remember that I was always told to go into the kitchen and help my mom. Even though you have a childhood you want to live, you want movies to watch, I was always told to go into the kitchen and help my mom. And obviously it wasn't an issue with me because I love my mom. Of course I want to help my mom. I just hated being told to help my mom. It wasn't out of my free will. And of course, back then I didn't know you can speak up and say no. But of course I'm not going to say no to my dad. And it's not like my dad was abusive or anything. No, not at all. My dad is a great man, and he's a hardworking man. He just wanted the best for me. And of course, his mentality is to think that making me the best housemaker is providing the best for me. And so obviously I grew up with that mentality that, okay, I have to cook, I have to clean, I have to make sure everything's up to standard. And of course, I have to be smart, I have to be intelligent, I have to be fit, I have to look pretty, I have to wear a dress. I always have to look ladylike, and I shouldn't cuss. Obviously, shit happens, so I changed. But I think my favorite part that I always found as a blessing in disguise is that I grew up with 4 brothers, and I am very aware of masculine traits. And I think because of it, it really shaped my identity, because my 4 brothers and myself have very different personalities. And more importantly, we have very different interests. My oldest brother, it was also into film, but he's more into broadcasting. So he's more into DJing and putting on a live event and filming it on live air. So him and I kind of have the same interests when it comes to technology. My second older brother became a Marine, and more importantly, he's now in the Army, but he's into police and enforcement. So that's another personality. My third middle brother, I call him my middle finger brother because he's basically, to sum it up, I call my brothers and I the 5 fingers. So my oldest brother is like the thumb, where he's a good person overall, and he's a little bit chunkier than everybody else. My second older brother, like I said, is the military person, so he's the pointer finger, he's the shooter, so he's shooting finger. The middle finger brother is, of course, the asshole in the family. He's more ranchero. He's into the cowboy life, as he calls it. And he's a total dick, but I love that brother to death. If I had to say he's my favorite brother, he's my favorite brother. But he's a dick, which is why I call him the middle finger brother. Then there's me. I'm the ring finger. I'm the only girl, so I'm the one that has to keep all of them together. I'm the heart line. So that's me. And of course, I'm into film and performing arts and anything artistic, okay? And my younger brother is just there. He's the pinky, and he's also in the military, and he's doing his own thing. And, we're all very different. And it's so interesting combining all of us into one room, because we're very loud and, we're very proud and prideful, and we take pride in what we do. So you can imagine that dynamic growing up and utilizing the skills that I learned from my brothers into the real world. And I think that's the reason why I get along with so many people, is because I'm so used to dealing with so many personalities in a household. And I guess in a way I know how to control men. So yay me.
Yay you. Yeah. That's it's the same thing with I'm the middle child, by the way. My big brother, he's my big brother, he's 30 years old. He's the very, not too, from the outside looking in, he's a serious guy. I'm the very nonchalant, very just meh. Like, what you see is really what you get. There's nothing else deeper to me. I'm very open book. And then my little brother's the very wild one, the one that's usually the fun one. So I'll say that, because he's the very outspoken and very social and stuff. I'm the guy who's just very concentrated on what I'm doing. And that's, some of that is because of the way I was raised, or some of that is because of the things I've been through. But it happens, and because you've been adjusted to so many different personalities, it really does help with the way you're going to be telling stories. Excuse me. I wanted to bring up, I wanted to bring, being a woman in a Mexican household doesn't just translate into the real world. It translates into what you're going to be soon working in the industry. So how your views on what it's like being a woman producer, director, filmmaker in general in a very male-dominated industry.
I think my whole life prepared me for this. Yep. I really think so. Like I said, I grew up with very with so many men in my life, not to sound dirty or anything, but I got used to being around guys all the time, and not only just being with men, but being with very dominant and masculine and, the manliest men you can think of. And, I got used to dealing with their personalities. And it's not like they don't have their issues. It's more of that, because I understand their issues and I know how to manage them, I am able to get my needs and what I want across because of knowing their weakness. And I feel like that really prepared me, because when I walk into the classroom and I find that there's only 2 to 3 women in a classroom of 30 men, that's when I start to realize, like, okay, like, I get it. I'm the only girl again. This is nothing new. So let's see who I'm gonna deal with. And so this is, like I said, it's nothing new to me for me to be with men. It's I guess a different mentality, because I'm not dealing with the dominant Mexican man anymore. I'm dealing with a white man, if we're gonna add race to the mix. And so it's one of those things where I have to change up my act, not in a way where I'm changing who I am, but I do have to adapt to my situation, depending on where I'm at. So that's always been a thing for me. But I always feel that my outlook is unique in a way because of my upbringing. I'm a big fan of reading. I'm a bookworm. And my favorite author is Sandra Cisneros. And she too was raised in a very masculine household. So I like reading her books because I relate to her experience so much. And so, I think that really shaped who I am and how I can adapt to any situation. It's my way of survival. I'm a chameleon.
Awesome. And it's truly one of the greatest things to see, such amazing, like, the reason I am the way I am is because I was raised by 3 amazing women. Some of the 3 strongest women I've ever seen. My grandma, my mom, and my aunt. My father, he was in my life, and he raised me too. He showed me how to be a real man, a man that is vulnerable, that is emotional, that understands that life isn't easy. But my mom, my grandma, and my aunt, those were the biggest role models in my life, because they were the biggest. Like, I 100% was raised by strong women and by a strong father presence. But the reason a lot of my traits come from being raised by strong, independent women. And so whenever I see women working in the industry, it makes me so happy. Because anyway, you should be happy to see women working in the industry, because we don't have an abundance of it. But it's like I don't understand it, but I see the struggle, and I wish I could do more than what I can do. But when people tell me, like, whatever, girls this, girls that, I'm like, you guys don't understand, man. It's a real problem. Like, the fact that 2 great women directors were left out of the Academy nominations this year, with Lynn Ramsey and the one who did Leave No Trace. It's completely ridiculous. They've made better movies than half of the freaking list that's on for Best Picture. Plus, there's 2 slots left. They could have gone to Lynn Ramsey and someone else. So it bothers me. And I feel like the way that my advocacy, the way I am, it was 100% derives from being raised by strong women.
Well, first of all, I don't even want to get into the Oscars, because the Oscars are fucked right now. I'm honestly just going to let the Oscars burn and die on its own, and then hopefully it'll rebuild into something much more grand. But, to add on to what you're saying, yes, absolutely. I feel that, for the advocacy, we need more women stories happening. And I'm not saying, nothing to be compliant. But I feel that people don't understand where we stand sometimes. especially when it comes to issues like, being catcalled in the middle of the street, or, dealing with walking to your car at night. I remember when I was at my community college that I actually wrote a story about a woman walking to her car, and she was being followed. And it was just a short story. And, so essentially she was walking to her car, she was being followed, and, she had to find whatever she can to protect herself. And I remember I wrote the story and turned it in, and the professor was just looking at me like, do girls really feel this way? And I'm like,
damn straight.
Yes. I was like, have you not walked out? And of course my classes were late at night. Like, we got out at 9:30, and of course sometimes you stay later to talk. So you're walking to your car at 10 o'clock at night, and there's nobody there. There's no security. And, you're walking by yourself. And for me, I was able, so I grew up with my brothers, and I learned how to do the chola walk, where you're walking like you have a purpose and you look like you're always alert. And because of that, like, I always, puff out my chest and make my shoulders more broader and have my fists ready in case of anything. But to be honest, that shouldn't be the case. Like, I shouldn't have to walk to my car like I want to fight somebody, but I have to. And so when I was turning in my story, he was like, really? Do women really feel this way? And I'm like, I don't know. Let me ask all the 3 women in the class. And of course, like, I'm sharing my story with them, and they're like, oh yeah, sometimes I have my keys ready to shank somebody. And I'm like, okay, cool, I'm not alone. And so it's like movements like the Me Too movement that surprised me, where, you don't feel alone. And I feel like stories like that, they need to be told. Like, yes, we do feel like that. We do feel like we have to protect ourselves at all costs, especially in the Latino culture. At least in my own upbringing, my mom always told me, no te dejas. Like, don't you let yourself go. You have to always be on guard. Don't put yourself in situations where you don't belong. Always keep your legs closed, keep your arms ready. And I'm just, like, we shouldn't be teaching these ideals. I mean, obviously, I'm blessed to say that I was raised with that wisdom. And because of it, I'm able to guard myself. But the thing is that, why are we teaching these young girls to not let themselves go, but we don't teach these men to respect and understand and, be vulnerable just like a woman or just like any other person? And, it's because of my upbringing and my understanding and my own experience and knowledge that, sometimes I talk to other people, especially other women, and I realized that, damn, we do have the same story. Why is this not being told? Which is, one of the reasons, like I said, why I advocate for great storytelling and, or more importantly, for new storytelling, for new perspectives.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I wanted to say something about that catcalling stuff. I never understood what's the whole point of that. Like, dude, that's not going to get you laid. So, like, it's never going to work, dude. Please stop doing that. It makes you look like the biggest asshole ever. So, like, people who catcall, you're fucking stupid. Like, really stupid. Because that shit's ugly as fuck.
Yeah, it's not cute, but it's also... I mean, it doesn't help that women sometimes when they're walking by, and I can't say that I haven't done this myself, when they catcall, I'm like, oh, that's cute. Like, oh, you just be compliant and oblivious to it. And, it's one of those things now that I'm blessed to say that we live in a generation where we don't take that shit no more, where we call people out on their cult and their catcalling.
Yeah. And I'm so happy for my upbringing that I was taught to respect women. The most generic Mexican thing as well, like, a la dama no se le pregunta su edad. With anybody who's above my age, I always use usted. Very formal. You respect women. You don't ask their age. You tell them, you respond to them in usted. You are very nice. You do not say ugly things to them. You do not touch them if they do not want to be touched. You don't even put your hands on them if they don't want you, if you have their hands on. I was I was raised very differently than most dudes. Yeah, yeah. But it was like you don't even look at her if she doesn't want you to look at you. So like, when people are now realizing like, oh man, with this new stuff, I can't even look at a girl now. I'm like, bro, it's not that hard. Like I grew up not looking at a girl if she didn't want me to look at her. So like, calm down. Yeah.
No, it's so funny because my boyfriend, he's also Latino, but he didn't grow up the way I did. He kind of grew up the opposite of me, where it was obviously like se respeta la mujer, but he doesn't understand the concepts of machismo, which I'm blessed to say. I'm very, very blessed to say. I'm so blessed to say. You have no idea. Can you tell that I'm very blessed? But he doesn't understand the concept of machismo. So I had to break it down to him. I was like, hey, when you go to my household, you have to understand that I was raised to be a housemaker. And, I'm bringing you home to meet my parents. And they expect me to be acting like a housewife, which means I will be serving you. And when I told him that, he just looked at me and he was like, what the fuck? Like, no, I'm a grown-ass man. I can get it myself. And I was like, I know. And I'm so grateful you can get up and get your own plate. But we're in my house and in my parents' house. You let the woman serve you. Yeah. And I remember like the first time he met my parents, I mean, obviously it went well. But after, he was just like, it was so weird for my strong, independent woman to be serving me. And I'm just like, calm down, relax. It's no big deal. Like, I serve you because I want to, not because I have to. But the moment you tell me get in the kitchen, that's when I'm done. Like, I can't do that. And I can't say that I haven't dated guys who have told me that. And that's the thing that I'm telling you, that I'm blessed to say that there's men in this world that do respect women, but there's always that asshole who has something to say and will say the meanest things to break people. And it's something that we have to keep reinforcing, that it's not okay.
Yeah. And it's a sad thing to realize that not all men are raised the same. That not all men are raised great, and that some of them are, part of the problem. They're a huge part of the problem, and it all comes down to hopefully what this next generation will be doing is just raising their sons to be respectful.
I know. I hope so. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, well, I'm not gonna be part of that because I fucking hate kids. I don't like kids, but at least in the case of my cousins, I will remind them to be respectful. But the kid equation for me is not in the plan at all. Just the sight of children does not. No.
You can't deal with the mocos.
No, I can't deal with them talking. I can't deal with them screaming. I can't deal with them just looking at me. It happens.
Well, I didn't mean for this interview to get dark.
No, it happens. I want to talk on a lot of things with you, but I do want to kind of not wrap it up, but I do want to hit one last thing that you were talking about, the concept of vulnerability. It's such a vast concept that a lot of people understand and a lot of people don't understand. I am as vulnerable as I can get. I am an open book. I have probably shared things that I probably shouldn't share about myself with people I've known for at least a good 3 months.
Well, hey, you're a podcaster, so you're used to talking about certain things. And of course, I'm pretty sure you mentioned your life a couple times, so I can respect that.
Yeah. Well, I am planning that somebody needs to do an episode on me on this show. It's probably gonna have to be you, because Brad would just make it a constant joke. And with Ashley, I would get too emotional with her and start crying on the show. So I feel like you're the perfect medium right there in between. Same thing with Luis. I can't do it with Luis. He's going to make me cry. So, yeah.
I can be your Oprah. It's no big deal.
Yeah. But don't worry. It's going to get... You can probably do the episode and I'll probably open up a little bit more. But yeah, vulnerability is so important. I will. Vulnerability is very important in being human and also being important in creating art. So one thing I want to ask about that vulnerability is where did you learn it from? What parts of your life are you going to be vulnerable enough to document in film? And also, how did that play off into really making you who you are today?
Ooh, that's such an amazing question.
Yeah, those are three questions just hit right to your face right now.
No, it didn't even hit my face. It struck my heart. That's how deep it went. Okay. First of all, honestly, I didn't start becoming vulnerable with myself until I moved out. And that's mainly because I didn't know I didn't know who I am until it's like I was always surrounded by people, especially I was always surrounded by my family and friends and consistency. It wasn't until I got up and moved out that I realized that I'm truly on my own. And that was such a scary concept for me because I was always used to having other people around me and other people defining me that I never knew who I was until I was left alone. And it honestly was such a shocker to me to be vulnerable because the moment, moving out wasn't easy for me. It wasn't like I got my stuff left and I landed somewhere safely. No, I hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
And with rock bottom, like J.K. Rowling once said, through rock bottom, I built my foundation. And that's when I realized that I am my own person. All the decisions that I make will be for me and only me. And more importantly, I have feelings that are valid. I grew up with men, okay? And not just any men, like I said, traditional Latino men. And in the traditional Latino household, men don't show their emotions.
Yeah.
So, I was raised with that ideal that men are not supposed to show their emotions.
Yeah.
And, obviously, my way of survival growing up was to be like one of the boys. So, of course, I took that with me when I moved out, where I'm like, I cannot show my emotion. No one should ever know that I'm going through some shit. But like I said, the moment I was alone, the moment I moved out, that's when I realized, like, oh my God, I want to break and I want to break like now. And I did. And that's when I realized, like, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to feel. And I remember TMI, I was dating this guy at this time, and he's like, damn, why don't you show your feelings? Like, why is it so hard for you to be vulnerable? And then I realized, like, oh my God, this guy is right. Like, why do I never show my feelings? And then I realized I don't show my feelings to people because I'm always the rock that people lean on. And of course, it's not like you can show your feelings while someone else is breaking down. So, like I said, it wasn't until I was able to build myself and realize that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to have your feelings hurt. And more importantly, it's okay to accept where you are and to grow from there. And I really believe that truly helped me as an artist because I was able to tap into these emotions that I never truly explored. And once I explored it, there was another part of my art that I realized that's just as intricate as when I'm happy. So like the dark parts of me is just as great as the light part of me. And I realized, especially in my photography, that I like high contrast. I like my lights to be super light and I like my darks to be super dark. That's just my style. And, through observation and analysis, I realized that that's who I am as a person, is that when I'm the light, I am the brightest light you'll ever see. But when I'm dark, I am the darkest night. And, that's something that I truly explore, not through, my photography, but I also explore through my storytelling that there's this complexity with my characters that their decisions are not one-sided. Their decisions are based off analyzing every single complication they have to deal with. And so I hope that with my art and of course with my advocacy, I'm able to not only be vulnerable with other people and of course explore parts of me and parts of others that have never been explored, but more importantly, to be able to put those into light, and I hope I hit all your questions.
Yeah, you basically did.
I truly think that once I'm able to master that, or at least have a better management of that, I feel that I'm unstoppable.
Yeah. So, I mean, if I could give you my full observation from this conversation, I could say that you're 75% of your way to understanding your narrative. It's just that other 25% that you're still not sure of.
I think it's more of that, like I said, I'm still finding my voice. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, this is like the first time, I think, if I was to say 5 years ago, I don't think I was ever able to truly say how I feel. Now
Yeah.
it's more like, you want to know how I feel? Shoot, I will put a movie for you explaining to you
Yeah.
how I feel. Like,
Yeah.
see it through my eyes, see it through my lens.
Same thing with
Um,
me. 5 years ago, if they would have said, Raul, how are you feeling? I would have said, it's whatever. Now you're like, I'll tell you when I'm sad, and I'll tell you when I'm happy. I'll tell you when I'm feeling angry. That's a very weird emotion. That's one that I've never really fully understood about myself. I'm never angry. It's very hard for you to make me angry, but
got it.
it's
So,
yeah.
my goal for your interview is to make you angry, but like
No,
angry in a passionate way.
yeah. There's stuff that I feel very passionate about, but I've never been like I've never been to the point where someone can make me mad. It's just not in my being. But now I can tell people when I'm sad. I can tell people when I'm happy. I can tell people when I'm having a depressive episode and things aren't going well. Where back then it was like, just don't ask about it. I'm not gonna tell you, or I sugarcoat it and say, oh yeah, I'm doing good. But actually, when I go back to my room, things are doing horrible. Things are bad. Things are very bad. And
I feel like, oh, go on.
but that's just the part of being human, and that's really the whole point of what art is. It is to play on those things. It is to talk about the human condition. That's I say that a lot. Uh, Brad says I love to say fancy words, but I don't. I just like to say magnum opus a lot when talking about masterpiece. But the human condition is not a fancy word. But it's about the human condition. It is 100% about what makes you human, about by psychology. It is about emotions. It about every single thing, and 100% vulnerability plays into the way you are an artist.
Oh, heck yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, fuck, if it means for the rest of my life, I'm going to make movies about my daddy issues, and by all means, let's bring it on. But it's not even, I think the best way to put it is, I feel like the complexity of emotions is like the movie, oh my God, the Pixar movie with feelings. I like went blank right now.
Inside Out.
Inside Out. There you go. Okay. I feel like Riley. Like I understand. And I feel like Pixar did such an amazing job explaining that. Especially for a person like me who was not used to opening up about their feelings. I think Pixar did an amazing job, providing this platform where they allow these characters to express their feelings to people they love. And I mean, I cried my eyes out with that movie. I still do, because I'm like, oh my God, this character is me. Like I relate to this human condition, to use your words. But it's things like it's movies like that, and just overall good storytelling that inspires me and inspires many people to allow them to take the next step to be human.
Yeah. And also what you were saying about the whole traditional Latino, I'm like, I very realize now that I wasn't raised as the typical Latin man. My dad said it was okay to cry. It was okay to feel sad. It was okay to feel empathy for others. It was like, if you want to cry, you cry. It's better to let your emotions out than bottle them up. So I very realized that I was not raised as many men were raised.
No, it's not even. Like I said, it's a spectrum. There's no right or wrong way to be traditional. I mean, when I think of traditional, yes, I think of my upbringing, by all means. But I can't compare my upbringing to, for example, yours. Like you and I are both Mexican American. We have immigrants in our family, and we have both the traditional ideals. But it's a spectrum. It's not like we're going to be exactly the same. But I do feel that there's some stories that haven't been told or haven't been brought to people's attention, and so therefore to me, it's what needs to be told. and some people can relate to my story, some people cannot, and that's perfectly okay. Your experiences, may define who you are, but it also defines your surroundings. And so, I mean, like I said, I have no regrets. Yeah. I am completely fine with my upbringing. I mean, we're all crazy. And, I'm just crazy enough to tell my story through film.
So the last question.
Oh, God. Dios mío.
All right. You ready for it?
Okay. Bring it on.
The future. What do you want? When is that debut coming? When is that debut short coming? Because I know you told me you haven't worked on anything. I want to know why you haven't worked on anything. Why you haven't?
Mainly because I have to work. I have to pay my way, okay? Paying rent is not easy. And it's so funny that you say that, because honestly, I had that thought yesterday where I'm like, why am I not writing my material? What the fuck is wrong with me?
Yeah. How many hours are you paying? Are you consuming Netflix? How many of those are you listening to music? Those are hours you could be spending writing your shorts.
Netflix, I haven't actually watched any new shows on Netflix recently besides binge watching one day at a time, but I knocked that out in a day. And of course, today I binge watched The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel on Amazon.
Which, by the way, it's not a bad thing that you're watching, because those are what obviously influence your writing style and influence the way you make your movies and make your art. But I'm just saying, you got time, girl. You got time.
No,
there's people who have it. There's people who have a busier schedule than you. Believe it. Even though right now it seems like you have a really busy schedule, but there's people out there who have a busier schedule and they're writing and they're filming their stuff.
I know, and trust me, it's on my to-do list. Like, that's one of my goals for the year is, hey, I made my podcasting happen this year. I'm going to make my writing happen this year too. You best believe it.
Yeah, ponte a jalar. You can do it.
I know.
You can do it.
Ándale, pendeja. Hácelo.
Yeah. I kept sitting around like, when am I going to do it? Like, I should probably do it, right? Like, my documentary. And I got it assigned for me for school. And I said, you know what? Finally have my excuse. I'm going to do it. And I have 5. You saw my Instagram post. You liked it. 5 fucking scripts that are not shot. Finished scripts.
Speaking of your documentary, I just watched it probably before we started doing this podcast.
What did you think about it?
I'm not a big fan of documentaries to begin with, so I am going to be judgmental about it. But I do like your storytelling, especially because you're not really in it, but it is your story.
Yeah, it's my family story, most of it. I'm not in it whatsoever. If you think I'm in it, that's my little brother. That's not me.
I know. But I thought it was good. I really thought so. And then I saw your other short story. I was getting to watch it, and then I started this podcast with you.
Yeah, I've worked on 3 shorts, 1 documentary, 2 short films. Currently in the process of finishing up my follow-up to Bloodline. It's Borderlands. It's going to talk more about living on the Borderlands. Basically the idea that Gloria Zandua put up in that poem I read on Mexi Gamers. But on top of that, I do a lot of other stuff. But yeah, I'm finishing up that one and touching up Scene of the Morning. So I'm doing a lot of work. But yeah, come on. Put that debut out.
I gotta bust up my game, especially I think it's more the fact that I have good ideas. I'm just afraid to put it on paper.
Don't be afraid.
And it's not that I write my notes down, I jot my ideas, and when people read my thoughts, they're like, man, this is gold. What are you doing? And I'm like, I'm not doing anything with it. Like, I can't elaborate on that. But, I'm in the process of working out one of my ideas. I was actually working out a VR idea with my boyfriend. He's into video gaming. He's actually studying to become part of the video game industry and doing game art. And we were talking about, like, I guess a new video game idea. And I'm like, cool, I'll make a movie based on it. And you make the video game and boom, we'll be rich. No big deal.
Yeah. But that fear, it comes from, it correct me if I'm wrong, it probably stems from the idea whether you think people are going to enjoy it.
Absolutely. Oh, heck yeah.
And that should not be the case. You shouldn't care if people are going to like it. if people are gonna hate it, it always should come down to whether you like it.
It's like, okay, think about it this way. It's like listening to yourself for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And like, for example, or someone videotaping the camera on you, and the camera's on you, and you realize how awkward you really are, and how your voice sounds so nasally than what it really is. And you start to feel self-conscious about it.
Yeah.
And you wonder if you're saying the right things. And I think that's my fear, is that I'm afraid to be misinterpreted. Mm-hmm. But I also should realize that this is an art, and art is meant to be subjective.
Mm-hmm. So let yourself go. Let those doubts, let the fear, let the insecurities, and put the pen to paper, or put the finger to typing. Do it. If you have to film it on an iPhone, it doesn't matter. If you have to go to your school and rent a camera, do it. But put out that short, because you're not doing yourself justice if you haven't put yourself out there.
Yeah, that is one thing that is so true. And I'm so glad you're my motivator.
Yeah. I could also give you the more like straightforward, where I'm like, get the fuck to work. And just,
it's more like, get the fuck over it and just
get the fuck over it. Who's waiting? Who you really care what people think? Fuck that. I could be more direct and blunt about it, but I don't want it to be that way right now, because it's late. No. But if you would have caught me at 1 a.m. and you're telling me, Raul, I think people aren't gonna like my work, I'd be like, so what? Get the fuck over it, right? Yeah. So that's it. Unless we have something else that I want, not really, but that's it. I hope to see more from you, because I am really interested in what you're doing. I am probably one of your biggest supporters right now, because I am just completely I am completely enthralled in who you are and your upbringing. I didn't even get to touch the surface yet. But I hope that enough of this.
Thank God you only touch like the basis of the surface, because God knows you go deep in, you're gonna hit an iceberg and crash like the Titanic. Yeah,
I'm a very curious person. I like to know things about people. I'm not nosy. I really like to understand people and where they come from and how they feel and why that reflects on who they are and what they work in. And that's the reason why I started this show. But yeah, I barely started to touch the surface of what I wanted, because I still wanted to learn more about your identity. I wanted to learn about relationships. I wanted to learn about how you are with your brothers. But don't worry, a lot of these episodes are gonna need part 2s that are gonna happen later on. But I'm not done with you yet, Dani.
Well, yeah. I mean, I gotta leave some things for my episodes. I gotta leave something for ladies of Nerdcore.
Yeah.
I gotta talk through them too.
Yeah, but you guys gotta hear. There's gonna be an episode on me on the Impaired Files. Dani will be the one to interview me. Basically, it's all out there. She can ask me anything she wants. But it's been a fun time talking to Daniela. She's a wonderful person. I'm so happy to have her on the team. As always, please leave I'm sorry, I have to go into the plugs, but were you going to say something?
No, I was going to say I'm happy to be part of the team and take it from here.
All right. So if you would like to, please leave a rating and review on your podcast app of choice. I want to just point that out. If you guys put your social media handles on the iTunes review of 5 stars, I will read it out and give you some free promotion. Go ahead and follow the network. That's the first time I actually call this thing a network, which is really weird, because I don't see this as a network. I just see it as like a brand, a bunch of shows where we talk about a bunch of cool stuff. And
fucking own your network, that's yours to own.
This is my baby. This is my baby, the Nerdcore. Follow the Nerdcore on Twitter at the Nerdcore_, and on Instagram at the Nerdcore. I want to give a big shout out to our Patreon supporters at the $1 level. You're listening to this not just a day early, not just 2 days early, a whole freaking week, guys. Give us a big shout. Give us a big debut, not a big debut, a second episode. And honestly, guys, this could become bi-weekly. Might just have to fit in the schedule somehow, but you guys are doing wonderful things. I said there is no way I give the patrons just 1 day with it. I want to give them a whole week with it. So Patreon supporters get this a whole week before it premieres on the first week of March. So thank you all for supporting us in that way. I also want to give a huge shout out to Grayson Barker 98 on Instagram, Warder him at 98 on Twitter. Thank you, buddy. Grayson is an executive producer of this podcast. This show also happened because of our Patreon producer, Grayson. So I want to give him a huge shout out. He gets pins and stickers as he's made, and a postcard from us every month at the every month at the Nerdcore podcast team. If you want to become an executive producer of this podcast, all you need to do is go to www.patreon.com/thenerdcore and pledge to the $15 tier. For $15 a month, you get all that fun stuff. Daniela's a $10 tier member. Daniela, do you enjoy your tier?
I do. I listen to everything. I have to listen to myself too.
3 exclusive shows. You get the Mexi Gamers every Sunday, Alex's Bad Movie Club every Friday, and the Germ Show every Friday. I'm so sorry for that show. That one's terrible.
No,
but it's
I love it. I do listen to everything.
Yeah. So thank you so much for our Patreon supporters, even though one of them is on here. I didn't force her to be a Patreon supporter, by the way. That was all her free will. So
yeah. Well, I love it. I love what you're doing here with the platform, and I love what the whole team is doing. And of course, just as much as they support me, I got to support them as well. So shout out to everyone.
Shout out to the team. So other than that, I do want to thank our guest. Please tell us where we can find you on the internet.
Well, I'm both on Instagram and Twitter at La Vanilla Mexicana. With instead of the L's, it's 11. So La Vanilla 11 Mexicana on both Instagram and Twitter. And follow me and we can be buddies. Yeah.
When we do part 2, I need to tell you why you need to step up your social media game. You can't be double thinking of what to post. You gotta just post. People care. They're gonna see your post. You don't have to put a really good photo. Can just be literally a picture of the movie you're watching. Like, hey guys, this is what I like. You guys like this? Comment and tell me.
It's my social media game, apparently. Yeah. But I take pretty pictures anyway. It's what I like to do.
But it's a part of showing who you are to people, and you don't gotta second guess it. I think people try to be too artificial on social media, and like, oh, if it doesn't look like this, if it doesn't look like that, I'm not gonna post it. Fuck it, post it. Who cares? Fucking do it. Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm going to post all my selfies just for you.
No. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, you see half of the shit I post on my fucking Instagram. It's stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I'm watching. A poster of a movie. Fucking video games or something. I don't know. Whatever. Either way, we're done with this. I want to thank my guests so much. Next episode, we will be having Ayden Byrnes, decorated filmmaker, wonderful friend of mine. I love him so much, but y'all are probably thinking, where's the dudes on this podcast? Well, he's coming. Ayden Byrnes. So in the meantime, the file is closed, but sorry. Let me go ahead and do this outro again. The file is closed, but not classified. Stay classy, my friends. I love you all. Goodbye.